I've done something at the BBC. I've banned campaigns.
Okay.
So we don't build campaigns. We build platforms.
Yes.
We build creative platforms that last 3 to 5 years minimum.
Yeah.
And then within those platforms, we have campaigns. But those campaigns are quite specific. They're quite pointed. They're driving growth or brand love, or they can do both. But they're built on a creative platform that has long-lasting or longevity.
How does marketing continue to shift business, influence culture, and grow brands? To get insights on these and many other questions, we had the privilege of attending the IMC conference, which was themed Marketing is Business. In this IMC conference series, we spoke to creative industry thought leaders where we asked them some of the most pressing business questions. For actionable insights which can shift your brand communication, stay tuned.
Charl, thanks so much for making time while you are in South Africa, and I'm seeing you in real life this time. I like when we recorded about a year ago or more.
More, yeah.
A bit. So to start off, I mean, you've been in this role of Chief Brand Officer for nearly 2 years now, as far as I know. And this is, of course, a role that was newly created when you started. How has it been for you reimagining a legacy brand such as the BBC?
Mongezi, it's so nice to be with you, man. So lucky to be here. I'll tell you something. No, the job it's been an exceptional journey. I mean, not easy, but it's been incredible over the last. It's been a year and a half actually.
Yeah.
And you know, I spoke about it on stage today. But this bringing to bear a lot of the lessons and the learnings from South Africa and then Sweden into that environment. You know, it's almost like testing the philosophy, not just the techniques or the tools, but actually the philosophy of how to build brands. And it's been incredible to see how people in the BBC have responded positively to that.
Yes.
You know, by using, by first creating a vision for what the true north needs to be, like where are we going?
Yes.
And then bringing some of the data and the tools and the measurements like brand power to bear. I mean, we've actually got that, the whole theme here today is marketing is business.
Yeah.
And actually making sure that those measurements are on the corporate dashboard.
Yes.
And we're talking about brands now at the BBC, and not just about content and shows and news, but about brands, has been quite revelationary for me.
Yeah. So, I mean, I asked you a question that is along similar lines as this, but now that you've been in there for as long as you have, how is it redefining a brand that is being disrupted in the industry that it's playing in and is on the back foot almost in comparison to other players?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the only time brands are often open to being reinvented or having sort of being reimagined, to be honest. And it's not the first time. You know, Castle Lager, when we were working on Castle, had been in decline for 10 years. It was being disrupted by the international beers, by premium beers. Absolute Vodka had been in decline for 12 years when I came in. It had been disrupted by new players, by gin, by new categories, by tequila.
Yes.
So it's not as if this is something quite unique. It happens.
Yeah.
And so I think that's important. You know, you make reality your friend.
Yes.
Categories get disrupted.
Yeah.
If you're a legacy brand, if you're a brand with heritage, you're bound to be disrupted. And you need to be prepared to have a long, hard look at what are the things you want to take to the future, and what are the things you need to change and innovate with. And yes, I mean, the media category has been fragmented. You know, putting the power with users in YouTube, you know, direct streaming with Netflix, and music, the same thing with Spotify. But it's given the BBC an opportunity to really go, for us actually, at the BBC now, to go, well, we need to be a global digital streaming service, but our unique selling point is that we have public service values. No commercial agenda, no political agenda.
I get that.
And that definition allows you to innovate in the right places with a product that's appealing to audiences, but with a proposition that's unique.
And I suppose it also separates you quite a lot from the commercial players out there who are, I guess, I mean, everyone is chasing numbers and growth, but the ethos from which you are chasing that growth is different from everybody else who plays in the streaming market.
100% right. So growth is critical for us because it speaks to relevance.
Yes.
If we want to be, it's an existential question. If we want to exist, we need to be relevant.
Yes.
If we want to be relevant, we need to grow with younger audiences. We need to ensure that they're coming to our services. So even without the commercial imperative,
Right.
you still have the same pressure to justify your existence.
I get that. I get that.
But the difference is where you can use the tools, for instance, algorithmic tools that allow you to understand personal preferences, and then giving you only the things that you want.
I get that.
Which is what you get on commercial environments.
Yes.
In public service, the difference is we'll use those tools algorithmically to understand what you want.
Yes.
But we'll also feed you the things that you didn't realize you needed.
That's true.
We'll offer you an alternative point of view. We'll give you some insight into a tool or an education piece or a documentary that you might not have considered. Now that balancing act of doing right by the individual
Yes.
and by the public good,
Yes.
I think makes it quite a unique place to be.
And that is so important in the world where algorithms, as we've come to know them, have been blamed quite a lot for how people behave in real life or in the real world. Then that behavior is bolstered by what they see online because we are surrounded by more and more of the same content that we
100%.
consume all the time. But to kind of change that perception, especially with what's happening in the world right now, is very important.
Absolutely. I think with what you've got is you've got fragmentation of media.
Yes.
But you've also got fragmentation of content, and then you've got polarization of opinion as a result of that, those bubbles that are being formed.
Yes.
So if your role, and our role is to bring people together, but our role is also to pursue truth with no political or commercial agenda, and to be a platform for homegrown storytelling. Those are our three roles.
Yes.
If those three roles are to be taken seriously, it does mean that we challenge those bubbles, those algorithmic polarized bubbles.
Yes.
Because what we're trying to offer is a perspective that's both and.
Yes.
And that's not always appealing, because if you're comfortable in your algorithmically driven
Yes.
niche space,
Yeah.
you're going to be challenged to kind of consider another point of view. So is it comfortable? No. Is it always? Is it quite often attacked? Yes. But I always say if you're upsetting as many people on the left as you are on the right,
Yes.
or in the red as you are in the blue, or whatever side, then you're probably doing something right. And that's coming through actually. People, there's a sort of consciousness that people are looking for. Not just points of view and opinions, but a multitude of perspectives, whether that be through entertainment, whether that be through documentaries, or indeed through the news.
Yes. So when we spoke last, you mentioned how important agency networks are, or agency partnerships are. And of course, you had to get in there and establish those and build those yourself. One of the things that agencies kind of struggle with at times is having a true seat at the table in some of these conversations or inside the brand, so that even though they are an external player, they feel as though they're part of internal runnings of the business. How do they truly, firstly, earn a seat at the table, but also what do we get wrong as people in agencies to earn that seat at the table?
Such a good question. I think, the very first thing, your first question is how do you earn a right to sit at the table, is the same challenge for us as the marketing community within organizations.
Yeah.
So it's both and. And the way to get it right actually is to understand the business problem.
Yes.
If you understand the business problem, you can offer a business solution. And the way we offer a business solution is by understanding the consumer or the audience better than anyone else, and then bringing that solution in a way that's creative. And what we mean by creative is it's a way that's unexpected, that's emotional, that connects with people. That's the key opportunity.
Yes.
And I think quite often, it's not so true anymore actually, but it does happen where you want to sell yourself. You want to sell your ability to be creative, or your ability to offer a new technology, or your ability to bring an insight, from your world.
Yes.
That's good. That's the kind of stuff that drives innovation, that drives creativity. But you've got to root it in what's the challenge this business is facing.
Yes.
Understand that, and then understand why is that challenge manifesting with their consumer or with their audience.
Yeah.
So do I understand that group? And how is it that what I'm offering unlocking real value for the consumer or the audience? to help this business succeed. I think that's it sounds simple,
Yes.
but it's,
Yeah. Yeah,
it requires you
quite
to
complex.
Well, it requires you to kind of understand and to listen first.
It also takes time, though. Sometimes these relationships
Yeah.
tend to feel short-lived for you to make that kind of impact and understand business at that level.
Yeah, and it requires partnership with your clients.
Yes, yes. So we've been finding that a lot of campaigns tend to be very short-term focused, as though they're meant to last a few weeks, a few months, and yet that doesn't drive the emotional resonance over time that a campaign kind of needs to. How do we balance this, building campaigns that feel as though they're built to last, built for longevity, while remaining fresh in people's minds and also driving that emotive thing that you want to build as a brand?
That's a beautiful question, because it's probably the most fundamental job that we have, which is this idea of fresh consistency.
Yes.
Building something over time,
Yeah.
and then bringing it back to audiences or consumers in a way that drives reappraisal freshly.
Yes.
So I've done something at the BBC. I've banned campaigns.
Okay.
So we don't build campaigns. We build platforms.
Yes.
We build creative platforms that last 3 to 5 years minimum.
Yeah.
And then within those platforms, we have campaigns. But those campaigns are quite specific. They're quite pointed. They're driving growth or brand love, or they can do both. But they're built on a creative platform that has long-lasting or longevity. Because then you're building the elements of a platform that are reinforced in the memories of our audiences. But then you bring to fore something that's quite culturally relevant,
Yes,
or zeitgeisty, either through your social media or through traditional advertising. But I think that step away from starting with a campaign, start with a creative platform,
Yes.
and then build your campaigns on top of that, is one way around it.
And that's very important, because then you'll be remembered for that as a brand for longer, and as you fit the campaigns in, because this idea of summer campaign here, winter campaign there, this spring campaign here, sometimes creates these spikes, but these spikes don't create the emotional resonance over time.
I mean, I think it is a balance of the two, right? So it's building the consistency over 20, 30, 40 years of a brand.
Yes.
Having creative platforms that have 3 to 5 years at least.
Yes.
And then the campaigns, the summer and the winter campaigns, you can still do those, but
Yeah.
those are more tactical.
Yes.
They're a much more tactical utilization of the platform as a way to win over audiences at a particular time in the year. And I think it's that balancing act. I think as brand builders within businesses, our job is to make sure that the business isn't chasing every rabbit, but actually has a longer term view and saying, well, what are we building sustainably over time? And that is our job, actually.
Yes.
So, well, hang on a second, great campaign.
Yeah.
How does it fit with the platform? How does it fit with the brand over the last 20 years and
Yes.
into the next 20 years?
Yeah, so that golden thread lives on.
Because people's memory, people's attention is short-lived, and everybody's competing for that attention.
Yes.
So what are the things, what are the little nuggets that we're putting in people's brains that we reinforce constantly to build those memory structures?
Yeah. Charl, we have a tradition on the show where you get to pass the mic to our next guest, or because we're at an event, you get to pass the lapel.
Yeah.
And one of our previous guests was Sydney Mbele,
Sydney.
Group Chief Marketing
Sydney.
and Corporate Affairs Officer of ABSA Group. And the question he left was, what's your take on what the next frontier of marketing measurement is?
I love that. So Sydney, I know very well from my days at breweries.
Yeah.
Hi, Sydney. Tough question. Look, I think the key measure is always going to be the long-term sustainable measure. So I think there's going to be an evolution in how we measure conversations, how we measure engagement. That's great. But the fundamental thing is to put the human at the center of the conversation, and it's on the corporate dashboard. So what I've done at the BBC is bring in brand power. It's not rocket science. It's not something new. Kantar have been doing it for years. But this idea of salience, relevance, and distinctiveness, because what it does is brand power on the corporate dashboard. It is a balancing, coming back to your previous question.
Yes.
It's a balancing act between growth. We measure our growth through weekly active audiences. That's on the dashboard. We measure a whole bunch of other things around our content and our engagement. But the key thing is, are we actually building brands that are for the future? And I think within that, this idea of relevance, salience, and distinctiveness becomes part of the conversation we need to be having at a corporate level, not just at the brand and marketing level. And so just coming back to Sydney's question, I think that remains key. And I wonder if at some point in the future we'll be measuring in some way or form the relationship we have on an emotional level. And that's
people,
it's probably in the relevance and salience scores. But it'd be really interesting to see kind of what tools we have in the future to allow us to measure emotional connection in a different way. I'd say that human aspect is probably going to be the most key thing
to measure
in terms of the frontier of the future.
That's powerful. That's powerful. Now, Charl, you get to pass the mic to our next guest with your question. So you get to ask a question about what their take on creativity, marketing, or even life is. We don't usually get the life questions. We get the marketing and creativity questions more. So what would be your question for our next guest?
My question for our next guest, not knowing who they are, is if you weren't doing this job of creating culture, what would you be doing to create a positive world, a positive culture for the future?
Sure. Thank you so much, Charl, for making the time.
That's
It was amazing. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Cool.